can you tell us why the United States of America is planning a coup in Venezuela and what 18,000 troops are doing at the ready in Puerto Rico?
I think the main explanation, is that the United States does not tolerate left-leaning governments, either in South America or Central America. And as soon as they see a government that they think is considerably to the left of center, we move in to replace that government. We have a rich history of doing this. And ever since Chavez won in Venezuela, a decade or so ago, the United States has had its gun sights on Venezuela and nothing has changed. We want to get rid of Maduro, and we would prefer to put in place a right-wing government. If you have any doubts about this, all you have to do is look at our relationship with Cuba since 1959, when Fidel Castro took over there. We've had our gun sights on Cuba ever since. We cannot stand the fact that Cuba has a government that is to the left of center.
Cuba doesn't pose any national security threat to the United States. The Cuban Missile Crisis is, a long time ago, 65 years ago. Does Venezuela pose any threat to the United States whatsoever?
No, not in my opinion. There are a lot of people, though, who think it's an ideological threat. In other words, they believe that we're in such a precarious position in the Western Hemisphere, and maybe around the world as well, that if there is a left-wing government in this hemisphere, even if that left-wing government is not cavorting with a distant great power like the Soviet Union, the mere fact that there is a left-wing government in this hemisphere is categorically unacceptable. And we go after it hammer and tongue almost every time.
So the people of a country democratically choose their leaders, like Lula in Brazil, a hard left guy, but a very prosperous country with a major economic base. Venezuela, not prosperous, but potentially so. We're going to use force to change their government. It sounds like Afghanistan, doesn't it?
Look, we do not believe in sovereignty. It's just very important to believe, to recognize that. The United States thinks it has the right, it has the responsibility, and it has the capability to intervene in the domestic politics of every country on the planet when it sees fit. This is the way we operate. This is a gross violation of the UN Charter. And everybody understands that if you violate sovereignty all the time, you make for a much less peaceful world. But that doesn't matter to us because we're interested in remaking the world in our own image.
Professor Mearsheimer, you are a graduate of United States Naval Academy at West Point, and you were
United States Military Academy.
Military Academy. Sorry. God have mercy on me. United States Military Academy at West Point, and you were an officer in the Air Force. I don't know how you got from West Point to the Air Force, but I know that happens, and it's legitimate and proper, and that's what you chose. You certainly are familiar with military regimen and respect for authority. Is it lawful in the military to obey an unlawful order? Go kill that guy. See that guy right there? I'm ordering you, Sergeant, to go and kill him. Can the sergeant, if that guy's not engaged in violence and not a member of a military against which whose country we've declared war, can the sergeant lawfully disobey that order?
Yes, there's no question about that. Let me just give you a little bit of background on this. Very important to understand that militaries are giant killing machines. If you're trained in the U.S. Army, U.S. Air Force, U.S. Navy, U.S. Marines, in most jobs that you have in those services, you're trained to kill people. That's what militaries do. And given that militaries are trained to kill people, and there's a very powerful tendency to engage in wanton violence, you want to have a set of rules that are drilled into everybody's heads so that people think twice before they engage in murderous behavior. I'm not talking about normal combat. I'm talking about killing civilians, killing prisoners of war, and so forth and so on. And it's very hard when militaries are engaged in combat to keep a lid on things, because there's a powerful tendency in those institutions, as you can understand, to do things that are unlawful. So we have these laws, we drill them into people's heads, and everybody understands what those laws are. And it's all designed to keep warfare as humane as possible. And along come people who say that when you get into combat, you can do pretty much anything you want. You want to execute a My Lai massacre? Go out and do it. Well, of course, you don't want a situation like that. You want to do everything you can to prevent a My Lai massacre. And that's the reason you have these laws as to what kind of killing is legitimate in a war and what kind is not.
Is it legitimate? Is it, I'm going to ask you to veer into the philosophical with this part of the question, moral? Is it lawful for the President of the United States to order the United States military to kill unarmed civilians who are not engaged in violence on their speedboats in the Caribbean because he thinks they're drug dealers?
I do not think it is. And there are lots of other people who don't think it is either, including British military intelligence, MI6, as you know. The British are not cooperating with us. This is the British, right? Our buddies. But MI6 will not cooperate with us in the Caribbean because they fully understand that what we're doing is unlawful. It's murderous behavior. And President Trump can say that he has some sort of written mandate to do this, which says it's okay, but hardly anybody believes that except for the people around him and his fervent supporters of the body populace.
I wish he would release the mandate. This killing, which is now up to 81 people, two survived, but 81 are dead, has provoked members of Congress who themselves are former military or former CIA to make a video in which they encourage members of the military not to obey unlawful orders. Originally, it was thought that this tape was AI, but the people that are in it admit that they made it, so it is not AI. The president has reacted, as you might expect, saying that it's sedition and punishable by death. I would argue that it's free speech and it's an accurate statement. There's what President Trump said in caps, seditious behavior in caps, punishable by death in caps. I would argue that it's not only free speech, it's an accurate statement of the law. But before you respond, it's about a minute and a half long. Here we go.
I'm Senator Alyssa Slotkin.
Senator Mark Kelly.
Representative Chris DeLuzio.
Congresswoman Maggie Goodlander.
Representative Chrissy Houlihan.
Congressman Jason Crow. I was a captain in the United States Navy.
Former CIA officer.
Former Navy.
Former paratrooper and Army Ranger.
Former intelligence officer.
Former Air Force.
We want to speak directly to members of the military
And the intelligence community.
who take risks each day
To keep Americans safe.
We know you are under enormous stress and pressure right now.
Americans trust their military.
But that trust is at risk.
This administration is pitting our uniformed military
And intelligence community professionals.
against American citizens. Like us, you all swore an oath.
To protect and defend this Constitution.
Right now, the threats to our Constitution aren't just coming from abroad,
But from right here at home. Our laws are clear. You can refuse illegal orders.
You can refuse illegal orders.
you must refuse illegal orders.
No one has to carry out orders that violate the law.
Or our Constitution.
We know this is hard and that it's a difficult time to be a public servant.
But whether you're serving in the CIA,
In the Army,
Our Navy,
The Air Force.
your vigilance is critical.
and know that we have your back.
Because now, more than ever,
The American people need you.
We need you to stand up for our laws.
our Constitution,
and who we are as Americans. Don't give up.
don't give up.
Don't give up.
Don't give up the ship.
Any problem with that, Professor Mearsheimer?
Pretty straightforward to me, and I would assume it's pretty straightforward to you as well.
Yes, it is straightforward to me. First of all, it is speech, free speech, political speech. And secondly, it is an accurate statement of the law. Now, a lot of our friends of yours and mine who are formerly in the military, say that this will cause a disruption in the ranks, that individual soldiers can't decide for themselves whether an order is lawful or not. But my goodness, we have the experience of, this word will mean a lot to you, Nuremberg. I was just following orders is not a valid excuse to killing or harming nonviolent and innocent people.
Well, the implication here is that there are thousands of orders that are given every week, and a huge chunk of those orders are going to be illegal orders, and you're going to have insurrection in the ranks, you're going to have chaos in the ranks. I don't think that's the way this works. I think that every once in a while you'll get an order that is clearly illegal. People understand that, and they can question that order. And if the person up on top, the commander who issued the order, has a good explanation for what's going on, he or she can give that to the subordinate who is asking whether the order is illegal or not. But you certainly don't want to have a situation where people down the chain of command simply have to obey an order that they think is clearly illegal. If you're, again, at My Lai and somebody tells you to go in there and massacre all these innocent Vietnamese people, do you want a situation where you just axiomatically do that? Of course you don't want that. So I think that most of these cases, which are not going to be large in number, but most of these cases are pretty clear cut. And you can have a discussion up and down the chain of command about whether or not the law is illegal, or the ruling or the command is illegal or not.
Before we get over to Ukraine and reality, I'll show you the other side of this, which is a CNN reporter buttonholing the Speaker of the House of Representatives just about 15 minutes ago.
The president posted that Democrats who urge service members to not follow illegal orders should be punished. It should be seditious, conspiracy, and punishable by death. Give me a response to that.
Look, I know the DOJ and the Pentagon are looking into the legality of all that, but what I can address is what everybody knows. That was wildly inappropriate. It is very dangerous. You have leading members of Congress telling troops to disobey orders. I think that's unprecedented in American history. And as the father of a young man who is, at the Naval Academy, going to be joining the service, I know young soldiers, airmen, sailors, they don't need that kind of nonsense from people in Congress. It is very dangerous. At a very dangerous time. I'm going to let others define what it is, but it's wildly inappropriate.
Well, what do you think?
He misrepresented what the issue at hand is. He said that these senators and congressmen are telling soldiers and sailors and airmen to disobey orders. And that's not what's at issue here. It's not disobeying orders. It's disobeying illegal orders. That's the issue. And the question Johnson should answer is whether or not he believes that service people should disobey unlawful orders or not. That's the question.
Right. I don't think he wants to answer that.